Hello friends, this is Durga again from IT Varsity, a one-stop shop to learn all the technologies. At this time we are talking about setting up virtual machines on a bare metal server which is provisioned from ovh.com. We have already set up ESXi on it, and we have demonstrated how to access ESXi using both command line as well as browser. And now we are actually getting into setting up pfSense. We have already seen the theory aspect of it, why pfSense is required. pfSense is nothing but a virtual router to simulate private networking within the organization. So, if we have only one network switch, or even if we have multiple network switches, when we create virtual machines within a server, and if they don't need to communicate with others, there is no need to connect through an external network switch. You can have a software based router such as pfSense to so that you can facilitate your virtual machines communicate with each other. If you have virtual machines in an enterprise, then you have to have a second switch, and all these virtual machines have to communicate with each other through an external switch. But in our case, we have only one bare metal server, and it is enough for us to get our virtual machines communicate with each other through a private network, and that's what pfSense will play a role here. In real world scenario where you have multiple bare metal servers and virtual machines created on those pooled or multiple bare metal servers, they have to communicate through a virtual not a virtual router, a physical router which is external to these systems. At that time you don't need to use pfSense. Okay, so that being said, let us review our environment. So this is the ovh.com, and this is our IP address for our bare metal server on which we are trying to create the virtual machines. And these two are additional IPs which we bought as part of the last video. After covering the pfSense theory, we have bought couple of public IPs, one for pfSense and one for the gateway node, which is nothing but a virtual machine which will be creating after setting up pfSense. I paid $6 for these two and I got this. So this is how it look like. And then if you go to ESXi web console, or even if you use vSphere client, it looks similar way. And here we need to start with networking. Okay, in the networking, when if you are doing for the first time, you will see two something called Photogroups. There are two. One is VM network and second one is management network. This is VM network is a virtual switch, which is VM network is a port group on which you can actually assign public IP to two virtual machines which will be creating in future. And pfSense is kind of a virtual machine. We can assign a VM network to it, and we can assign VM network to it, and we can assign the public IP which is provisioned or which is bought from OVH. And then if you go to the virtual switches, you will see the list of virtual switches. As of now, there is only one, vSwitch 0, and if you click on this, you will see to which physical NIC it is connected to. So the switch is virtual, but NIC is physical. So it will show which physical NIC it is connected to. It is connected to VM NIC 2, both VM network as well as the management network are connected to VM NIC 2, which is a physical adapter. And this is vSwitch topology. And what vSwitch we have selected? We have selected vSwitch 0. Okay, so vSwitch, which is nothing but a virtual switch, is playing the role in connecting these management network as well as VM network to physical adapter. Okay, and then if you again click on networking, you can get all this information using vSphere client also. on Windows. I will try to cover as part of another video about how to get this information using vSphere client. And then physical NICs. This machine have 4 physical NICs. Actually, these 4 can be there could be redundancy of these switches. For example, if you see, we have VMNIC 0, VMNIC 1, VMNIC 2, and VMNIC 3, and you see these 2 are IXG BE driver. I'm not sure what these are all about. I'm not expert in networking. We have 4 network switches, and 2 of them are down and 2 of them are up, and they can actually take up to 10 GB Mbps. If we go to the other ESXi host which I have, it is also 32 GB server, but it is a little bit lower end, and I got only 2 switches, 2 physical NICs, not switches, 2 physical NICs. One is VMNIC 0 and other one is VMNIC 1. So we will see that it is still coming up. And then you can go to VM kernel NICs. So this is created when ESXi is set up, and management network is being used with this VM kernel NIC, and our ESXi host is using this management network, and we should not touch this. And I'm not sure about TCP/IP stacks and firewall rules. If you want to create any firewall rules, you can create those things. Okay, now if you go to the port groups, we will delete it, or we can also rename it, but I'm deleting it. Okay, we can rename, or we can use as is also. We can assign it to pfSense, and then we can actually set up pfSense as a virtual router. Anyway, I am removing it because for pfSense, the standard way of naming the port groups are WAN and LAN. Okay, WAN for public networking, to access our pfSense host from external world, and LAN for internal networking using a virtual switch. So first we will create an additional switch. vSwitch 0 is connected, is already connected through public networking, because this is being used as a switch between public networking and our ESXi host port group, which is management group. Okay, so when we actually create additional port group, we will try to assign it to virtual switch vSwitch 0 for public networking. Now I am creating additional virtual switch, and I will name it as vSwitch 1. vSwitch 1, and it is very important to delete this one. Okay, so that it is not assigned with any of the physical NICs, because we are trying to create a virtual router. We are not using any of the physical NICs. Otherwise, if you click on add uplink, it will only show the NICs, physical NICs, and we don't want to add any of these things. So I'm deleting it. Click on add. Okay, now you can see there are 2 switches. Now we have to add port groups. One for public networking by name WAN, and other one for private networking by name LAN. Okay, so click on add port group. And meanwhile it comes up, we have to go to ovh.com, and here we need to get a MAC, so that we can actually assign this IP address to any of the virtual machines or physical servers, which actually this is only for virtual machines. If we have to give this IP address to any of the virtual machines, we have to create a virtual MAC. Okay, so MAC is nothing but a address to your NIC. So here we are actually mapping to a virtual NIC. There is no physical NIC in our case, so we are actually creating a virtual MAC. So here we have to select the type, which is VMware, and virtual machine which I will be assigning it to is pfSense. Hence I am giving that name for now, confirm, and it will not validate whether that name is already existing or not. Okay, right now we don't have any virtual machines on this. So here I will give the name as WAN, and we don't need to change anything here. Make sure VLAN ID is 0 and then click on add. Meanwhile, the other ESXi host also ready to log in. I will come back to this in a moment, just to show how the network switches are for other server. So now WAN is created for public networking, and we have to create LAN. Okay, so add port group. These are standard names. You can name anything you want, but we will be naming it as WAN and LAN to comply with the standards. So here name is LAN, and switch is vSwitch1, and click on add. Okay, so we have WAN and LAN. So we have created vSwitch1, but we haven't changed some properties. So we have to go back to the vSwitch1 and try to change the properties. Here you can say edit settings. Okay, you have to expand the security and make sure MAC address changes is allowed, and forwarded transmits are allowed. Okay, unless you do these things, you cannot actually change the MAC addresses later. It is very important to make the changes to these to accept, and click on save. Okay, and whatever you have set up at switch, those will be inherited at the port. If you have to override those things, you can go to the port groups and click on the port group, and you can see 4G transmits and MAC changes are S and S because it has inherited from the switch. If you want to override, you can click on edit settings, and expand the security. You can see it's inheriting from vSwitch. If you want to override, you can override. Anyway, I'm not keen on overriding, so I'm cancelling it here. Okay, so now we have a public port group and a private port group. So public port group will be used for external world to connect to the pfSense, and private port group will be used to communicate between the virtual machines. So let me log into the existing ESXi host. It will take some time to log in. Let's go back here, and now we have to start setting up the pfSense, which I will be taking care as part of the next video. We just did the groundwork. We have allocated a virtual MAC to one of the IP addresses, and then we have deleted existing VM network. Now if we refresh, this will go away. Actually, this is not existing. You can see only WAN, management network, and LAN are available as port groups. And before creating WAN and LAN, after deleting VM network, we have created an additional virtual switch called VMNIC1. Okay, and now we will use this WAN and LAN while creating the pfSense and other virtual machines going forward. That being said, let's review how it will look like, and then we'll wrap up for this video. Okay, so you can see it here. We have vSwitch 0 and vSwitch 1, and if you go to the port groups, you have WAN, LAN, and CentOS 68, which is again another public IP assigned to one of the virtual machines. we have pfSense and 5 other virtual machines, and I have given access to external world only to one of the servers, and I designated as a gateway node. Others only can communicate within each other. External world cannot connect to any of the other machines directly. They have to go through this one only. So this is how I have set up, and now we are trying to achieve this, and we will do that. First we'll set up pfSense after this video, and make sure our public and private networking both works, and then we will start creating the virtual machines. Okay, so let me refresh it here so that we don't see this VM network, to make sure that everything is clean, and then we will go to the next video. We are almost done. So vSphere client is will be much faster compared to this browser. So this did not refresh. I just want to make sure that there are no unnecessary Photogroups or switches. Um, that's why I'm trying to get the details of our host. If it did not come up within few seconds, we will wrap up for this video, and then we will review as part of the next video before setting up the pfSense. Okay, it's not coming up for some reason, so I'm going to the next video. Okay, I will be wrapping up. That being said, if you like this video, please click on the like button. If you want to provide the feedback, please use the comment section of the video. If you want to discuss further and learn other technologies, please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned so that we can actually discuss and learn any technology you want. That being said, thank you. Bye.